Welcome, young Skywalker. I have been expecting you.
Got a really good feeling about this.
Don't get technical with me.
As Obi-Wan would say, Q.
Now I'm lost. What are you going for?
I just thought you were going to say, may the force be with you.
What does Obi-Wan say? He says hello there, but we're leaving, so why would I say that?
We would be honored if you would join us.
All right. Welcome to the Mostly Star Wars podcast. You have your normal trio of hosts today. So we have up at the top, Quinton.
Hello there.
And then we have to my side here, Tyler.
General Kenobi.
Oh, man. We have a super exciting show today. We get to talk about a couple of things. It's always a blast when we got multiple Star Wars stuff launching all in the same week. Such a good time. So today we are going to be talking about Tales of the Jedi that all was launched together. So we had all the episodes drop all together. So yeah, just a bunch of shorts that were just so amazing. Super excited for that. And then after that, we also have Andor episode 8. So we're going to be talking about that. So yeah, first off, just to jump right in, Tales of the Jedi. You know, we were a little bit cautiously optimistic about what we are going to get with the first teasers. We got the trailer. We got super hyped, super excited. It dropped, and all my expectations were met and more. Oh man, it's so amazing, so exciting. Oh man, I can't even wait to just jump into each one of those episodes, but hit you in the feels. Yeah, there is exciting parts. I mean, there is suspenseful parts. You had hair raising. I mean, goosebumps. It was so good. But yeah, do we want to start at the first episode, or how we want to do this?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, this whole show was amazing to me how much they were able to say with just short amount of time. These are very short episodes. I think the longest one was like 17 minutes. So very short episodes, but the amount of Star Wars storytelling that was in each of these was incredible, how much they were able to do with just such a short amount of time.
Yeah, for sure. I think another thing, we're obviously going to mention this as we go along, but you know, the score was amazing as well. I mean, you had like some swells in the music that hit like right at the right times. And I mean, we had some moments that, you know, were maybe only briefly touched on in like books or comics, things like that, some legends. So getting to see that, even though it's not live action, still being able to see it on screen was just, oh man, it blew my mind. I love now having, you know, certain book elements like on screen that you can like now visually picture what you were kind of reading. So
yeah. And if you want to get into the first episode there, that one was a real interesting one because, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot, but you could see just because this whole show is about what it means to be a Jedi, right? And funny enough, it's about two characters who either fall to the dark side or are not Jedi any longer. I was waiting for the meme of people to put the meme up when her like grandma basically says Ahsoka is Jedi, and I was waiting for people to put the meme of Ahsoka is citizen.
Right? Shouldn't the whole title of this series be Tales of the Citizens?
Oh man. But yeah, I think another interesting thing to this, people who watch the show, obviously Tyler, Quinton, some of my favorite characters of all time are not only Ahsoka. So that made me super hype, and getting to see more of her story. Like, I'm always down for that. And it was kind of like a little teaser for the Ahsoka the live action series coming up later with Rosario Dawson. But also, we also got Qui-Gon Jinn, like, in his story is something that definitely deserves, the silver screen, right? I would love to see more of him in live action. And we we just got like a little tease in Obi-Wan, but yeah, it was so amazing getting to see a little bit more of him, and also the kind of relationship between him and Dooku was really cool to get a little bit more hints of that. And obviously his death, seeing a little that it wasn't just like as quick as it was in the movie, right? Like, I love seeing that. We could talk about it later once we get to the episode, but yeah, like, oh man, it's so good.
Yeah, this first episode was real interesting because you get to see more of the Tragruda culture, and just some of the things that they do. And I thought it was interesting, the life and death, because that's the title of this episode, and they're kind of exploring that aspect of the life and death, and that translates to the Force, just like Yoda tells Anakin in Revenge of the Sith that don't mourn those who transform into the Force, do not. So it kind of relates, and it's teaching Ahsoka the quality between life and death. And it was a little hard to watch because she had to go kill the deer-like creature. I don't remember what it was called. I looked it up, and I can't remember. But anyway,
Yeah.
but she also, when she's talking to Ahsoka there, she says, "We only take what we need. We take no more. We're not wasting the animal. We only take what we need to feed to feed everyone." And I thought it was interesting. I also was really interesting to why the saber-tooth cat thingy. And I don't know why it took Ahsoka. And it's kind of having this debate. Why did it take her? Maybe it was fearful for her. It almost seemed like it was protective of her because it realized Ahsoka was a baby, and maybe it was protecting her in some way. And so I was like, because maybe it was a mother instinctually who had lost her cubs, and she was instinctually protecting Ahsoka.
I think it was more like she saw all the people charging at her with blasters and said, "Ooh, here's a quick meal on the ground. I'm gonna grab this and go."
But then why didn't she eat him? Why didn't she eat Ahsoka when she escaped?
Well, she was going to, but she
Because
wanted to
Ahsoka
clean
is
her,
Jedi?
She was trying to clean her wounds first, and then Ahsoka started making noise, and then it went up to her. It was about to, bite her, and that's when Ahsoka put her hand up to her and made a connection with the Force.
It reminded me very much of the Grogu in the Rancor at the end of Boba Fett. and the connection there. And and I liked, that was the whole point. And the end of the story is when they're like, how did she survive? How did she return Ahsoka to her family and her grandma? I'm assuming it's her grandma. That's what it seemed like based on, they don't really say, but that's the way they,
it kind of seemed like it could either have been like a grandma, or it could have been like the village spiritual leader or something along those lines.
Yeah, an elder of some importance.
Because like everyone, it seemed like the whole town was kind of looking up to her.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of seeing that in Andor as well with Marva, like, but I mean, that's just like a community kind of thing. They look at it as the elder, you got to protect them. and, you know, take care of them. And that's kind of what it seemed here. And I just, like, her wisdom, she knew exactly what it was. And because they were all asking, well, how did Ahsoka escape and was brought back? And she's just like, Ahsoka is Jedi. And I love that because that gave me goosebumps when she said that one was really fun. And it just shows that they don't necessarily have a word for the Force, maybe, because they didn't say Ahsoka is Force sensitive. That's what they know. Jedi has Force powers, the ability to connect with the Force, and so that is why I believe that's what she recognized, and that she relates that with the Jedi, and so that's why she said Ahsoka is Jedi. Now, so when I first turned it on, the show on, I'm like, because I sat down and I watched all 6 of them in a row, and when I turned it on, I was like, okay, all right, we're starting with Ahsoka, makes sense. Then the next one was Dooku, and I was like, okay, so are we gonna switch back and forth? But then the next 3 are Dooku, and then the last 2 are Ahsoka. And what I kind of realized is based on what I saw.
Chronological order.
Yes, it's all in chronological order, but it also makes sense because it starts with Ahsoka, life and death, and then moves to Dooku and his fall, but then you show Ahsoka and her training as a Jedi and what it means to be a Jedi throughout the show, and that's what it ends with, was Ahsoka and what it means to be a Jedi.
Yeah.
So, okay, do we want to move on to episode 2, Justice? If you've watched Jedi, Dooku Jedi, or not watched, but listened to or read the book version, Dooku Jedi Lost is one of the best Star Wars. It's you want to say an audiobook, but it's not, because it's different than the audiobooks.
It's an audio drama.
There you go.
And it was written as an audio drama before the book version released.
I don't even know if there is a book version.
And so it's really, really cool because all the characters are all acted by different voice actors, and there's a lot more music and dramatic moments, and you really feel it. And it's one of the best pieces. It's a must read. And all of what we saw here in these 3 episodes of Dooku very much fit the tone of that book, and we're almost like seeing parts of that book. So Dooku goes to this planet where they're in a rundown shacks, and they're looking like they're miserable. The people are miserable. But I like how they say that people are miserable and stuff, but they don't. That's all the message you need. You don't need any more than that. And that was kind of like, in a longer version, you'd kind of like see how they were mistreated and stuff. But we don't need that. We just need to know the fact that they're being mistreated. That's all we need to know.
Right.
And when we get that, and so that they're searching through like the little cantina, and basically everyone knows what the Jedi are talking about. And even the Jedi, even the people who are being mistreated, believe that the Jedi serve the Senate.
Right.
And I thought that was the interesting part. And it's even said later by the senator himself, Dooku, stand down, Jedi, you serve the Senate. And I just loved that line. Dooku says, no, I serve the people of the Republic.
Yeah.
And then he proceeds to force choke the senator, thinking that, you know what, I am going to make a difference. But I
He
love
says your corruption needs to be cleansed or something like along those lines.
Yes, and I loved that. But I also what I
Corruption
really
like
liked,
yours must be eradicated. That's what he says.
Yeah.
and hey, what's up, Tip 70 Designs?
Hey, what's going on, bro? Good to see you in here.
So Dooku is starting to realize, like, maybe I need to take out this stuff into my own hands and make a difference. And he's starting to think that maybe people that are corrupt like this need to just be eradicated.
Yeah,
Or
and I
just-
kind of
just-
feel like it isn't like this isn't like a turning moment. Like he's always felt this way. I feel like he would have been in the like he would have kind of felt the same way, you know, way prior to this and obviously after. But I kind of feel like, you know, it wasn't like it was definitely kind of a little bit of a shock, but Qui-Gon, like it wasn't like this is the first time he's ever seen anything like this. You know, like like just because of like the way that he like acted in the moment, and then the fact that he releases the boy, you know, to stop him. So I feel like he understood that, you know, for him, you know, to kind of see that, to kind of see the bigger picture, get out of, you know, that this isn't like a one-off bad person with no repercussions of what would happen to him, right? Like, so I think that, you know, that was really cool. Qui-Gon was able to kind of see the whole picture of what was going on, and also he was able to listen to the boy, and the boy realized, you know, what was happening. He had never seen it before, and so now he knows him being able to have basically kind of seen the other side could make a bigger positive change than, you know, the father dying.
Yeah, because if the father dies, maybe the son will be angry with
Right.
the Jedi and how it turned out, and
Mhm.
instead make it worse.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love the comparison. And like you were talking, and I don't believe that this was the first time for Qui-Gon seeing Dooku act a little more rash.
Mhm.
And it makes sense, but why Qui-Gon is a little more lenient with the rules,
Right.
because we all know that he's very lenient. He basically is fighting with the council all the time, and that's why he's not on the council.
Mhm.
And so it was interesting, but I also love the fact that he was actually the young version of Qui-Gon was voiced by Liam Neeson's son.
Yeah.
Actually, it was quite fitting. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, just real quick, is just the fact that it's called Justice, right? The episode is called Justice, and once again, it kind of puts you, like, as the audience in a place where you're deciding what true justice is. What is true justice, you know? And you start to realize that it really comes down a lot of times to opinion. It comes down to how the people that are being, you know, mistreated, you know, by the governing power, what's justice for them? Okay, well, what's justice for the senator? What's justice for the senator's son? What's justice for the whole republic, right? What is justice when you think of it down to like the Jedi's perspective? And so you're kind of put in this place where, you know, at the moment when, you know, Dooku is force choking the senator, you kind of wonder, like, is it justice? Like, you know, well, he is pretty bad. I mean, look at what's happening to all these people, right? Even the son is saying, I can't believe my father would allow this. So even his own blood, his own son is saying, yes, this should have never happened. He's acting in with, you know, in a bad way. Not necessarily that he thinks his dad's bad, but at least his behavior is unacceptable even to his own son. So yeah, it's a really interesting episode.
I like near the end when Dooku's talking to Qui-Gon, and he says that your actions saved many lives today. And then Qui-Gon he goes with, just thinking in the moment, Master. Which instantly, as soon as I heard that, it brought back in the very beginning of episode 1 when Qui-Gon is mentoring Obi-Wan, telling him to be here now in the moment and not always thinking about the future. I was like, oh, that was great.
Or when he tells Anakin in the pod racer, feel, don't think.
Yeah.
Be in the moment.
Yeah. And it was it just gave me an instant, that's Qui-Gon Jinn right there.
Yeah, 100%. And I loved that interaction there too, because once again, I mean, you can see this as we move forward as well, but Qui-Gon Jinn has a very high respect and honor to Count Dooku, to Dooku,
but
right?
it goes both ways, because you hear
it totally
Dooku
does.
talking about, I'm pretty sure in the Dooku books he talks about how much he respects Qui-Gon for the Jedi that he's become. Like, he does not say that about a lot of Jedi, and he really feels that way about Qui-Gon.
And I think I think this is a major reason why, though. Like, what we're seeing here is a major reason why Dooku respects like Qui-Gon, because Qui-Gon is able to kind of see both sides. He's not 100% blinded by, the Jedi dogma, if you want to look at it in a negative way, right? He kind of can see the whole picture. He sees what Dooku's saying, and he's learning from him, and he's learning lessons from him. He sees the wisdom in what Dooku's saying, but at the same time, he realizes you can't force choke and kill a senator.
Well, and think about Attack of the Clones, when Dooku's talking to Obi-Wan. He says, I wish Qui-Gon were here. I could sure use his help. That's what Dooku was saying. And he's being truthful about that.
Yeah.
He would totally could benefit from Qui-Gon's help.
Well,
100%.
Even though he knows Qui-Gon wouldn't be dark side like that, but he could still use his wisdom.
We're kind of skipping ahead here, but when you get to that third episode, when Qui-Gon and Dooku are talking again, he talks highly of Obi-Wan, and Dooku says, I hope to meet him.
I know, that gave me chills right there.
And Qui-Gon saying the same thing that about Obi-Wan as what Dooku says about Qui-Gon. He gives him the same respect. And I think that's what I love about Qui-Gon as a character in general, is Obi-Wan in The Phantom Menace is disagreeing with him. He's telling him you'd be on the council and everything, but that's the Qui-Gon's wisdom. He doesn't hold that against Obi-Wan. He doesn't get mad at him for it. He doesn't think less of him for it. He knows that the disagreement is part of life, and that's why he understands the balance more than anyone.
I think the other thing, once again, like you said, skipping ahead, but that conversation is so important right there when it's Dooku and Qui-Gon and Yaddle, and they're kind of there, and he's like, "Oh, I heard that you already met with the council," and he's like, he already knew. He's like, they're not gonna like either believe you, or they're not gonna like have the same. It's not gonna get the effect that you're hoping by telling this, right? And like, I love the fact that like he is 100% ignoring Yaddle. Like, Yaddle is on the council, and he was like, he's talking about the council in third person, as if someone from the council is not standing right there in between them, right? And so then she speaks up at that point when she's like, okay, here's how we're like, proceeding, moving ahead or whatever. But once again, it was like in like those little pieces of Dooku talking to Qui-Gon, who used to be his Padawan, once again, is like he's like planting little seeds, continuing to plant little seeds of, I already knew that. I knew you saying that they wouldn't basically do anything about it, and so like, once again, like as you kind of move forward with Qui-Gon's story, you can kind of see how little moments like that kind of pushed him to where he was. And once again, like you guys had mentioned, not wanting to be part of the council, or or even if he did, not realizing that that's not the best place for him personally with his philosophy on life and things like that.
I think that goes in hand with what the way Dooku is feeling. And I find this real interesting because it's almost like the weird way Palpatine can influence people, because he's influencing Dooku wants to do right. The reason he leaves the Jedi is because he believes that he can do right by his people more than he can as a Jedi. And so that idea is what, because even in that conversation that he's having with the Emperor, he was mad. Well, one, he was mad that Qui-Gon died. He was mad at the Emperor, and the Emperor just kind of casually, "Hey, I lost an apprentice. You lost an apprentice. Whatever. With more losses will be needed in order to get victory." But I think based on this conversation, it seems like that Palpatine has convinced Dooku that doing this in his way, even if it's evil and you're the dark side and all this, that it looks like he's trying to convince him that we're going to make things better. We're going to make the galaxy better. And so,
yeah. And I think kind of going back to chat, first, thank you, Kaloni, for jumping in the chat. Always appreciate you here. Also, big shout out to my man, Rock, from The Rock Show. Thanks for jumping in. But yeah, what Kalani was saying, she said, I loved when he says to Mace something along the lines of his loyalty to following the rules is annoying. And yeah, I love that part. So this is in the episode, like at the beginning, right? So when they're going to investigate.
Yeah, this is the second episode, or the second Dooku episode.
Yeah, third episode. Sorry. Yeah, in the third episode. So yeah, at the beginning of the third episode, him and Mace are on a mission trying to figure out what's going on with the murder of a Jedi.
Master Khatri.
Yeah, Master Khatri. And so it's really interesting because already from the beginning they have different demeanors. You can tell that Dooku is very invested in finding out the truth versus what the, whatever blanket statement, whatever report was thrown out there. He sees through that, right, immediately. And so and you can already start seeing the differences between Windu and Dooku in their philosophy and thinkings, just in general. And I really love, as you go through this whole episode and you go further with the Dooku Windu situation, which we are all excited to figure out what's going to go on, right? Because the next time we see them is, we have Windu surprise pull out a lightsaber, there in at the arena, right? So anyways, it was really cool to see this. And I loved the interactions that they had. Once again, Mace having, kind of similar views that Dooku's maybe going a little bit too far. And finally, we have the moment where Dooku fills the empty seat in the council. And yeah, so when Windu fills that empty seat in the council, and Dooku has his own opinions on how that all transpired and the timing of it. So yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, when he's like, did you know that you were going to be on the council the whole time I was complaining about the council to you?
Yep.
and he insists he didn't know, but it's just kind of an interesting way events turned out there.
And he basically turns around, counsels / rebukes him, right?
Yeah.
Kind of immediately after that. And so once again, he's like, okay, well, if the council didn't like me before, now they really don't.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, because everyone knows that Windu is a stickler for the rules. But those rules, what we're showing here in this in this show in particular is that sticking to those rules as rules is not the right way. It's not the Jedi way. Those shouldn't be rules. They should be principles.
Mm-hmm.
Principles help you to know so you can make your own conscious decision on what is the right way to act at this time. If it's a rule, then Mace would have just contacted the council as soon as they thought, man, maybe there's a little bit more here than just picking up someone's body.
Right. And I think the other thing is the other part to what Kalani was saying, that statement, and I know we have Quinton that can always find these better and quicker, but that statement there's another part of it. So tell us what it is.
So it's he's talking to, it's Dooku talking. He says, your devotion to rules is sometimes inspiring and sometimes maddening.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I love that, because that tells you, like, it's not, like, once again, like, Dooku is not inherently a bad person, right? And a lot of people that, end up turning to the dark side aren't necessarily bad people in the beginning. In the end, maybe they turn fully into the dark side. But at this moment, like, he's even saying himself, like, he's envious of the fact that he can do that. He's like, I personally can't. So the fact that you can, that's awesome. That's cool. But at the same time, if you're always like that and you can't ever, look at the big picture, you can't ever get away from these, really rigid rules that you put on yourself and the Jedi put on themselves, then yeah, it's, that would be frustrating to see somebody that can never say, yeah, this is what they say to do, but I understand this bigger picture, this would have been a better way to do it, or whatever. Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to bring out this a funny little thing here. The text we received from Quinton while he was watching. He sends,
great.
Just finished the first and I need more Jedi.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the picture he sent. No, I'm just kidding.
No. His message was, just finished the first two and need more Jedi Dooku. Mm-hmm. His next text to us was, I'm so freaking pissed at Dooku. Yaddle was awesome.
I think this might be the first time we ever heard Yaddle speak, and I thought she was awesome.
Do you know who did the voice?
Yes, I do. Miss Star Wars Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she was perfect for it too.
She did really well.
Mm-hmm. Loved it.
The way she portrayed Yaddle, as you would expect, with grace and wisdom, being a character that is, I think Yaddle's supposed to be about 400 years old here, which means she's quite young compared to Yoda. Only like 400 years younger than him. Or more.
Only.
So I just thought that was really funny. Those texts. I'm so pissed at Dooku but that moment was awesome, and I liked the metaphor in that when he shuts the door, when Dooku shuts the door on her, and it's all dark, and that's basically a metaphor of what happens in the universe.
Yeah.
So the Empire wins, and the darkness goes over everything, just like we're seeing in Andor, and it's taking over. But her lifting the door back up is the original trilogy, is the light coming back into the universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the spark that lights Dexter's grill, to which Seth makes us hamburgers. Is that what we're talking about?
But I loved also the fact that she did that, because I was like, okay, is that how she dies? And I kind of at first thought, okay, that's fine, but also you dropped a door on her, so that we didn't see her die, so we can keep writing about her. Or maybe she escaped somehow. She jumped out the back right before he closed it. I
was gonna say, if you don't see a Jedi die, they aren't dead.
Yeah.
When do?
Yeah, and
So-
okay, so I just need to take a break real quick. And first, I gotta say, Send It O'Reilly, thanks for jumping in the chat. He said, "Whoa, Tip is here. What's up, dude?" And yeah, I'm not sure if he's still here or not, but yeah, we did a big shout out to him. It's always good to see friends in the chat. He said, "Unfortunately, I haven't been able to watch Tales of the Jedi, so this is all spoilers for me. LOL. Oh well." Oh man, yeah, you definitely got to see it. You know, whether you hear some spoilers or not, it is just so amazing. And I think once again, like you were saying, I love that they put Yaddle's she said at the end, and there's already been speculation of if she was just trying to tell him what he wanted to hear or not, but she said that she already had stepped down from the council.
Mhm.
So that was already, people are like, hey, why did we see like someone that's Yoda's species in the council, and then all of a sudden she's not there, right? And stuff like that. And so like there's already been people, there's been talk about that. And anyways, well, this would actually completely explains it. If she steps down from the council and maybe she says, I'm leaving even the order based on everything she's seen and witnessed, right? And so then the Jedi as a whole aren't going to actively be searching for her because she's like, I'm done with this, right? And so they're like, leave her in peace, let her go live her life the way that she wants to, maybe similar to what Dooku kind of did by just leaving, and they let him kind of do his own thing. Not anything in a bad way, but they're like, oh, she left. So definitely she could possibly not be dead. But I have to say this. I know
No,
I
she's
always babble
definitely
along,
dead.
but
She's
well,
definitely
she's
dead
dead
because-
now.
Yeah, that's kind of the part I was trying to get at, though, is that instead of just being crushed by the door and disappearing, we could be like, you know, you could still be thinking she's out there somewhere, but no,
Right.
they had to be like, no,
Yeah.
we're putting
Here's the absolute.
She is dead.
Mm-hmm. So they made sure of it, and I feel like that. So this scene, this is what I was going to mention, is this scene is very similar to Anakin's scene with Mace Windu and the Emperor.
Just gonna bring that up.
That connection is just, it's glaring, it's right in your face. And you know, I feel like though what I more connect is Anakin in the temple with the younglings and this scene. And so the reason I say that is because with Anakin and those younglings, if you're not a parent, you're not maybe fully going to understand this situation. But Anakin's wife was pregnant. So he already was a father, right? He was going to have a child or children, right? So he was already picturing himself and Padme with a family. He's picturing himself having a child. You know, all of those different things start going through your head. Oh, you know, is it going to be a boy? Is it going to be a girl? How are they going to be? Are they going to, you know, be powerful with the Force? You know, he's already thinking of all this stuff. So Anakin having to go to the temple and kill children that he's fantasizing about having himself, that is huge. It's something different. You know, it's something different for him specifically than someone else without children, or if he never even had the ability, like he was never even thinking he could have a child, right? But he was already thinking about that and then went and did that. So that connection was deeper, that was stronger, right? It was more devastating to his soul, right? Now, so here's the connection, I think. Dooku killed Yaddle. Who is Yaddle's the only person that we know in the galaxy that looks like his master. Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that is huge. I mean, it's not just like there's hundreds of them.
Grogu.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. But you know what I'm saying? Like that's a big connection. So them having that storyline, that's huge because you know that he has to be thinking about Yoda when he's fighting Yaddle. The resemblance of the two it's like there's no one else even close to them, you know what I mean? So I was thinking him having to do that as his kind of final step into the dark side was very similar in the fact that both of them had to do something that was already very close to him. Like Dooku and Yoda's relationship obviously was very close. So yeah, once again, it was
that's what I was. If you look at the battle between Dooku and Yaddle, Dooku still has a blue lightsaber, right?
Yeah.
So I would say at this point, he left the Jedi a while ago. We know that,
Mm-hmm.
but he hasn't like fallen completely yet
Right.
until this
Mhm.
point where where Yaddle's fallen in front of him and says he just wants to bring peace and order to the galaxy. And that's
Mhm.
when I think that cements his fall is killing Yaddle.
Yeah.
Similar
Well,
to when
yeah.
Anakin falls, he still has his blue lightsaber.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And here's the other thing too to think about. So not only just that, but when he goes to see the Emperor, he goes to see this dark Sith Lord, that he had been kind of pseudo working for years now, but nothing crazy has really happened. The first thing he says when he walks in is like, "You've gone too far." I mean, so
Yep.
Dooku obviously knows this man is powerful. I don't know to what extent he knows he's powerful, but Dooku walks in there and says, "You went too far." Like, I mean, that's pretty hardcore. Someone talking to the Emperor like that affected Dooku. He's like, yeah, we've been doing this, this, and this, but my Padawan, one of my best friends, someone who I looked up to, they got killed because of you. Your apprentice killed mine, basically.
Yeah.
That like he wasn't playing around there. And I
And
think, like you were saying, like if Yaddle didn't come, there might have possibly something different could have possibly happened. But I feel like everything all lining up and then that happening, it was all bad. It's
I
all
like
bad.
I like your point there because the way Yaddle is treating him, she doesn't say, "Hey, come with me and all will be forgiven." She's
Yeah.
like, "We can make this right. You will have to pay for your crimes, but
Right.
but she's being real with him, more like Dooku is. She's seeing the world more like he does, but she's also being real with him, telling you will still have to pay for your crimes, but we can still make this better. And to your point about, I don't think he was. He knows the Emperor is powerful. He knows he's a Sith Lord
Mm-hmm.
because at the end he calls him Master.
Right.
But until this point, it doesn't seem like.
I was like, what is that?
Until for those listening to the podcast later, Quinton just had a cat walk across his screen. So, but into his point there is that he knows that Palpatine is a Sith Lord. He's been working with him to try and make things change, I think.
Yeah.
And it isn't until this moment, because he says, "You lost an apprentice, I lost an apprentice."
Mm-hmm.
And until he kills Yaddle there, and the Emperor says, "Rise, my friend." And he replies, "Master." And I believe that's where he becomes Palpatine's apprentice.
Tyrannus or whatever, right?
Tyrannus.
Yeah. And so a lot of this kind of got me thinking a lot of more of Dooku's story, and even moving forward in this and stuff, and all the way to the point where he finally gets to meet Obi-Wan and stuff, and he says, like, what would you say if I told you, basically that the Senate's being ruled by, a Dark Lord of the Sith and all this type of stuff, right? I was wondering did Dooku know the whole plan with both, the clones on Kamino and the Separatist army, like did he know that whole plan? Did he know that they were going to have they're going to have two war, they're basically create a war and have, basically be in control of both sides of the war? Did he know that whole plan, or was he more thinking like, oh, it would be good for basically the Republic to have a clone war, because he knew that, whatever, things, there'd be a time when the Republic would need a war, and so he was for clones, but did he know the other side at that point?
I don't
like, I guess I'm not sure what point that he knew the whole plan.
I like this idea because I think that maybe he didn't, but what Palpatine has probably told him is like, hey, the Republic, it needs an army to maintain order. Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily a war, but the Jedi won't go for it because that's what the Jedi are supposed to do. And then
Yeah.
and then Dooku's like, well, the Jedi aren't doing that. Things are getting worse. The Jedi aren't taking care of it as they should. So maybe he's right. And so that's why he's listens to him and deletes Camino out of the archives using Sifo-Dyas's name.
Yeah. Which,
Would-
yeah, if you know the book, there's a bigger connection between those two, right? And so I think that was a really interesting part, because if you just watch the movies, you don't know anything. It's like, oh, somebody died. Okay, someone used his name. Okay, well, now fast forward through the book until now, that was his friend. So now it makes sense why he would know how to use his code, or
Yeah.
his credentials, because they were friends. They grew up together as Padawans. So now, like, you're like, okay, pieces are falling together, like, oh man, I love that they've done these little tiny things that just make things like so much more clean. And I have to jump over to the chat once again. Claire, thank you for being with us. She said, kitty. And then also Real Shady Unicorn. Oh man, thank you so much for stopping by. Super humbled that you stopped by our stream. Thanks for being here. I hope that you're healing up well. My co-hosts don't know, but you got in a car accident, so he's kind of healing up from that. So appreciate you stopping by, and I hope you're healing up well, my friend.
Yeah, I hope you feel better.
For those who don't know, that the kitty's name is Hera, so we're a Star Wars family all around.
Love it.
So I kind of want to get to the title of our stream here. Did this retcon anything? Now, at least we're talking specifically this episode, the Sith Lord. From what I understand, the way I've seen it is Dooku did leave the Jedi Order about 10 years prior to the Phantom Menace. But in the book, Yoda tells him you can keep your lightsaber.
Yeah.
That's and so he still shows him the respect. Even if you get to Attack of the Clones, Ki-Adi-Mundi's saying to Padme, Dooku was once a Jedi. He's a political idealist, not a murderer.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they still show him respect, and it almost feels like
you got to do the voice. You can't just say
you can't just say it in line. He's a political idealist, not a murderer.
There you go.
So, but anyway, what it seems like to me is that he would still be accepted, and that's from what everything else I've read. Even I think I haven't read the new Padawan book about Obi-Wan, but there's articles in there, or there's a line in there. Basically, yeah, he's allowed to come. He comes and visits the Jedi Temple when he's in Coruscant and everything, and people still call him, like Jocasta Nu still calls him master. Like, he still has the respect.
And it makes sense when he's like messing around in the library. He's kind of like looking over his shoulder. Like if he was still a Jedi master, still formerly with the Jedi, no one would question why he's in the library.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, we also didn't mention where he's standing in front of the tree there, right, reminiscing about Qui-Gon, and like his sadness and anger is just like welling up, and Yaddle feels it. That was a huge moment in this episode. One of my favorite moments, I'd say, across the whole show, because once again, it humanizes Dooku. Where people, if you just watch the movies, you just like, oh, he's like
the bad guy,
an evil old guy, right? But like, so like, once again, it like grounds him as a person. And like, once again, I love that they kind of had some like flashbacks to them together, him and Qui-Gon, and so you're kind of reminded of the relationship that they had. Like this wasn't just anybody. Like, this is someone that he deeply cared about. He dearly cared about Qui-Gon, and he felt like that the Jedi and didn't do enough to protect him. They knew of the coming darkness. They were told of it, and they decided to be patient, wait, hold back. And so, yeah, you can understand his resentment towards them.
Now, one thing I really love is obviously when we first met Dooku, he was being played by the amazing Christopher Lee, right? An amazing actor, all kinds of things throughout his career.
Legendary actor.
I love people who do their best to try to play Christopher Lee playing a character. Voice acting of almost anything, like in the Jedi Lost book and in the Clone Wars. And it's Corey Burton did the Clone Wars and this for the voice acting of Dooku. I just love listening to people trying to talk like Christopher Lee. It's incredible. So shout out to all of them who are bringing this character to life.
Yeah, big time.
I definitely liked his the way he was animated this time. I thought it was a lot better than the Clone Wars and his 3-foot beard.
Well, I like how because if you pay attention, his facial hair, in the first when we see him with Qui-Gon as an apprentice, he doesn't have a beard, right? Clean shaven, and then he's got like a short beard when he's with Mace Windu, and then the last episode he's got his full long beard, and you can see it starting to go gray. Like you can see the aging process in this character.
Yeah, because even there's still 10 years separating when you see him in the Phantom Menace here and Attack of the Clones. There's still 10 more years to happen.
Yeah.
So,
oh man, can we get to 5 yet?
Yes. Okay. I wanna talk about 5 because, well, for me, it was probably my least favorite episode, but it had my favorite Easter egg.
It's because it wasn't Star Wars related.
Now, well, because how? Okay, yeah. When you look for Easter eggs in Star Wars, you don't see a whole lot that aren't either Star Wars related or George Lucas related. I mean, we're going to talk about this in Andor because Andor basically went to THX 1138 prison.
Yeah.
But my favorite Easter egg here, and I was kind of thinking about it when I saw it, and Anakin is training Ahsoka, and she has to fight the clone troopers, and she keeps getting knocked out. And all you hear, the only one that says anything at one point is Anakin keeps saying, again, again, again. And my first thought was, wow, that's like exactly like the movie Miracle, the Miracle on Ice, the 1980 Olympic team, where if you've seen the movie, Kurt Russell plays Herb Brooks, where they failed at a game and their punishment is to keep training, and they keep having to skate lines, and they do it basically until they're dead, till none of them can skate anymore. And that's how they're training. And that's what it felt like we were getting at with Ahsoka. And Anakin's like, okay, she's getting stunned, and the clone trooper's like, are you sure she's all right? Which also, when Rex speaks up, is what Craig does, the assistant coach, at that moment in the movie. He's like, he doesn't want to send him again. He wants him to, like, hey, come on, Herb, let's slow down. And so Rex is basically like telling Anakin, give him a break, give her a break. And he says, again. And I thought, there's no way it's that close. And then I realized it's not. And I know it's not because the only thing I can remember seeing Dave Filoni wear other than Star Wars shirts when he does his press conferences is Pittsburgh Penguin hat or shirt. It's the only thing I've ever really seen him in any of his appearances that he'll wear besides Star Wars, which to me means he's a huge hockey fan, so he knows the reference, and I guarantee you that's what he was getting at. And that was just, I know one of our Patreon member, Bruce, he's a hockey guy. He'll love that. It was, that was one of the coolest moments. And I know it was because Dave's a hockey guy. And so it was so great. And it also made it even sweeter because my Canucks played the Penguins last night and destroyed them. So that was fun.
Whoa, nice. Well, man, you guys are heating up now.
Yeah.
The first game they've won this year?
Yeah.
Second, right?
Yeah, second.
Okay.
See, guys.
So your favorite Easter egg in this episode wasn't seeing Caleb Dune and Deepa Balaba.
Yeah, I
They're
thought that was
watching
weird.
her
no,
training.
yeah, right? Like, yeah, it wasn't. No, it was.
Yeah.
I was really hoping for something. I was watching this episode, and it was when, obviously the whole episode was about Ahsoka training, and it was, after she'd been knocked out a few times, she was kind of like wobbly as they're going again, and she like was looking at Anakin, and I was like, I just want to see her like force pull his lightsaber to her, and so she can have two to help herself
I know.
defend. I wanted
was
that
waiting.
moment, and that was like, that shows where she, she gets the two lightsabers from, is that moment where she pulls it from Anakin and starts defending herself with two, but didn't quite get it. But maybe someday we'll get something.
You
That
also
was
got
how she developed that.
Sinube, right? Too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sinube.
That was in this episode too. I kept on being like, that it's like the meme of what is it? It's the meme of Leonardo DiCaprio like being like, like pointing or whatever. It's like, hey, like I kept feeling like I was doing that. Oh, that's that person. I was all like, oh, they're right there. And like I'm sitting by my wife, and my wife's looking at me like, calm down over there. Oh man,
I love
busted.
I love Tara Sinube's lightsaber hidden in the cane.
the
That
cane
was
handle.
so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did one thing I noticed, his lightsaber was much bluer now, because it was in the Clone Wars episode, it was almost white, and I think they're trying to like, they wanted to make it different at the time, but now I think they're trying to move on to like say no, Ahsoka's different.
Yeah, like white is a very specific.
Even Dave
meaning.
had said in like a press conference when he was asked about it, and he goes, "No, that's a pale blue," and we're like, "It's a really pale blue."
Yeah. Okay.
But
so now can I say what I have to say about this episode?
Yeah. So somebody's excited.
Okay. So once again, I don't have to keep on reminding you that I love Ahsoka, but so yeah, any of these episodes that were like focused on her was super cool. So I love this episode. Once again, like seeing her own kind of like independence and attitude way, like when she's younger, of learning and stuff. But obviously she has Anakin, who is also very similar to her. And so I love like, that they were kind of paired up. They worked so well together. But like once again, I feel like it's a similar thing like that happened with Dooku. Once again, Anakin is very grounded in this episode. He is very like brought down to earth. And even though like you were saying, like it was, even Rex was saying, hey, calm down, like give her a break, like he saw the bigger picture, and he realized, and he even said it in so many words, but basically he's like, like I'm not always going to be there to, save you, to protect you. You're not always going to have that. And so there's a direct contradiction between the Sith and the Jedi. But let's even go further back, between the darkness and the light, right? In this situation. So a lot of times, like Sith lords will train their apprentices, by fear. They basically punish them, and mentally and physically they wear them down to basically to gain control over them, through fear and pain, right? Now this, you could say was kind of, like torture-y, and even like Rex was kind of like along the lines of maybe this is too far, right? But Anakin, it was what his goal was the difference. Kind of just like your hockey reference. The goal wasn't, like because, they were a bad person that hoped that they, could gain something from them, or what. Right. They weren't punishing them. He was saying, like, I want you to succeed, and I want you to be able to have power. I want you to be independent. And, like more than anything else, basically he was giving her the power of freedom to be successful even by herself, right? Even against crazy odds. And so here's the crazy thing is, so because he did this, once again, it gives us a huge chunk. And these are one of those things that, like, I hate when somebody, like, okay, like I don't want to have to bring this up, but I hate when somebody like Rey all of a sudden is like a super Jedi with no training, right? Like you have no idea if she's ever trained in her life, right? And now, so then people say like, oh, well, how could Ahsoka have, survived Order 66? Well, what happened during Order 66? We had clone troopers attacking Jedi, killing Jedi. Well, it's kind of interesting that Ahsoka trained against multiple clone troopers, right?
Firing in a circle.
Yeah. So Anakin basically taught her how to survive Order 66. And obviously she also, like, spoilers if you haven't seen Clone Wars, but she also had Rex with her, which was amazing. And, yeah, it's just, I could talk forever about that. But like, yeah, that was amazing that we got this little chunk, a little tidbit of, hey, why was she so successful? Well, here it is.
2 points to your last little statements there. One, the first person that actually gets her in the show, I believe, is Jesse, which is the clone trooper leading the attempt to arrest her during Order 66. So it's the main one. And two, she doesn't, when they're all shooting, when you see later, she never expects the shot or senses the shot coming from Rex.
Exactly.
Because she can never foresee him betraying her like that. And it's more of a foreshadowing of him being the one there.
Yeah.
And so,
I love that too.
So those two, just, like George says, it's poetry, it rhymes. And so, but one thing when we were watching it, when I was watching it with Kaloni, and we get to that point where he's like, I hope all that training pulled off, or paid off. Sorry, had a little brain fart. But he's like, I hope all that training paid off. And then they walk into that room, and Kaloni's like, wait, that's it? I want more. I'm like, we already know what that scene looks like. You just got to watch the end of the Clone Wars. That scene, we've already seen that scene.
I know, but I was 100% too. I was like, just give me a little bit more.
Josiah's over there cutting it in between, so you can just like keep watching the Clone Wars from there.
Yes.
But yeah, so it was so great that you see all these parallels between one being Jesse and yeah, this episode had a lot of. For being probably my least favorite one, there's still so much in it. And the parallels that you see throughout the show. So, and then here's the sixth episode is the one that other people are also talking about retconning. And personally, I don't really see it as a retcon. I more like see it as they summarized the book into 15 minutes.
Right. Very quickly, yeah.
Like they summarized.
If you wanted to animate the whole book, it would take, 2 hours or more.
Yeah. I mean, they could do all of these shorts, all 6 episodes on that book for sure.
Yeah, you could take that much time. And that's where I see more or less that this was just like, all right, here's Ahsoka's book, and here was the story in it, and for people who haven't read it, this is the gist of it.
Yeah.
You know what? Like I will say, like, one thing I would have loved to see is, so once again, we get Padme, right? We like Padme's funeral. Once again, hits you in the feels. You start thinking of the whole story, everything that could have been, right? And then you have Ahsoka there, which once again, like, as soon as I saw, I was like, oh my gosh, she was at the freaking funeral. But anyway, so you have that, Bail Organa, and then they have like their sequence. So in the book, there's a part in the book where they both are looking at little Leia, like playing or doing something, like, or whatever, that I was like, I love that part in the book. I was like, oh, I would have loved that, for them to have like a scene where, it was kind of like that. And like, once again, like it was helping Ahsoka or whatever kind of see like the bigger picture, it's like not over, there's a whole new generation. You got to make the world better for these kids, that are, coming up into this new galaxy, right? What type of galaxy do we want for our children and things like that. And it tied in really well to when she was Ashla, on this, remote planet as trying to be like hide as a farmer, because those are like there was like they were younger kids kind of. So it was kind of similar. Like she felt for these like young kids that lived and worked on the farm or whatever with her. And so it kind of all tied in well with the book. I would have loved to see that, just because especially now that we had the Obi-Wan show and we got to see a young Leia, I feel like they would have easily been able to, now even using the actress's appearance, but then, an animated format, that would have been so cool. But, can't have everything we want.
One of my favorite parts of this episode was when you first heard her call to Ashla. And
I know. I was like,
name.
oh my God.
Yeah. But I just like that that's the name that Ahsoka chose for herself, because isn't that the term for the light side? Because there are different, in different cultures, the Force is called different things. And I think it's Ashla's the light side and Boga is the dark side. If you go by and Bindu is the middle. And I just thought like she would just call her, like really trying to hide in plain sight there. You just call yourself the light side. But it's also, it just fits with her and her story, and the story of her trying to hide and yet can't refuse what it means to be a Jedi, to defend these innocent people. And so that's really what this episode is about, is, again, because it's a Tales of the Jedi, what it means to be a Jedi. Dooku, I think, thought he understood what it meant to be a Jedi, but wasn't willing to do it as a Jedi.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka knows what it means to be a Jedi, even if she doesn't call herself a Jedi. And she understands, and that's what it was. The only part that I was disappointed that we didn't get to see is I really wanted to see her purifying the lightsaber crystals.
I know. That was the other thing too. I was just like, that would have been so amazing. And then obviously we like, as soon as I heard the name Ashla, I'm like, okay, we're like in book territory on screen. I was already freaking out. But so then I was waiting for like, okay, what pieces of the book are they going to put in here? Are we going to see her go out to kind of the middle of nowhere, and do that, or, anything about the lightsaber type situation. And so it's really interesting because, and then as soon as the one boy or whatever, you knew, he was already shady and he was gonna snitch, right? So then I'm like, oh man,
Right.
is she gonna find out first? Is she gonna do this? And they came into the village, it was burning, what are they gonna do? And then I was just like, oh man, like I was like, does she have them on her? Like did they just not show that? And I was like, oh man, that was pretty sweet. And once again, it goes back to the whole thing that, especially probably like around this time, a lot of these inquisitors were just very untrained Padawans, right?
It felt like she
I'm
destroyed him as fast as Obi-Wan destroys Darth Maul in Rebels. Like,
it wasn't quite that fast.
She was just fast. She's just like, I'm gonna grab your lightsaber, I'm gonna turn it off and take it away from you. Bye. And it was but it goes back to all that training. Like, she was trained,
the rigorous training,
so much more. She was trained by the chosen one. I was
gonna say she was trained by the person who potentially would have been the most powerful Force user ever.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking about this when we were talking about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and who's Anakin's more powerful than Windu and all this stuff. But you're thinking Obi-Wan training Anakin probably made Obi-Wan a lot more powerful than he could have been, just because he had to learn alongside teaching Anakin, right?
Right.
Then you get that from Ahsoka's point of view too. She was trained by who could potentially be one of the most powerful Force users of all time. So she's going to be, leagues above your average lousy Inquisitor. And we see that in Rebels too. When she fights the Inquisitors, she's not nearly as like aggressive, but they have no chance in taking her in a fight. Even 2v1, they have no chance.
I think another thing too is, like, as we've kind of seen through the different stories of, iconic Force users, a lot of times you could see like their path start from a young age. And so once again, this whole series, Tales of the Jedi, it started off proving that Ahsoka is not just an ordinary Force user. So like from a very young age, from an infant, she was able to, be able to use the Force even if she didn't know how to control it at that point. So once again, we have similar things to, if you start even like looking into legends and things like that, but like Palpatine, like Palpatine from a very young age was able to like manipulate people using the Force. So once again, it's like some of these, like, and like Anakin too. Anakin from a young age was able to completely untrained be able to use the Force to his advantage, And so once again, like I feel like this series did really good for Ahsoka to show like she's not just an ordinary Force user. She's something special.
Yeah. And she has the training to back it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Take that, Ray. In your face.
Wow. I like
positivity.
but if you think about it, the lineage of the show too would be like, okay, so Dooku trained Qui-Gon, Qui-Gon trained Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan trained Anakin, Anakin trained Ahsoka. So it kind of just goes down the line there. Whereas, so what's that? Dooku would have been Ahsoka's if you went like by a normal parentage lineage, she would be like her great grandfather. So it's or maybe an extra one in there, but still, but it's still down this line of thinking though. That's why Qui-Gon did it differently. Dooku saw things differently, and then Obi-Wan is almost the outlier because he sticks a little bit more close to the rules. But also, you could say that in theory, you can say he sticks more closely to the rules. But we know that whether he says it or not, he knows about Anakin and Padme, and he lets Anakin get away with a lot more. He goes, I know it's not me to necessarily do those things, but he doesn't. He learned from Qui-Gon basically to let that be as well, and let someone else kind of go off the track a little bit.
I mean, he had a thing for Sabine. It's not like he was perfect.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
If she would have said the word, he would have left the order. That's his word.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that kind of just goes along with what I'm saying. So he seems like the stalwart Jedi, but at the same time, he knows when and where to not be.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Ahsoka being special, but that is true. The lineage of Jedi masters that taught down from Yoda to her, like there's a direct line from those teachings. So it makes sense that obviously her teachings are she learned a lot while she was with the Jedi.
And now we can add an extra layer in there because now we have on-screen live action wisdom getting told to Luke Skywalker and Grogu from Ahsoka.
Right.
So I mean,
man, you thought Luke was the GOAT before, now he's learning from Ahsoka.
Yeah,
definitely the GOAT.
All right. Well, I think we've been going on for hour 15 just on this. I mean, we can keep talking and say so much more, but we also want to talk about Andor because we had a new episode of that this week, and because it was kind of a different take. It was like this week I sat down to watch it. I'm like, oh, I got 2 things of Star Wars to watch. And so now we get another episode, and you get that totally different tone. This is the thing is cool about this is that Andor is a completely different flavor. You're like, you're getting almost remove all that Force and everything and all the Jedi and the Sith and all of that, and you're getting the people of the galaxy. And so this episode was an interesting one because I really thought that the prison he went to was basically it felt like THX 1138. And
I was totally expecting to see him break out in this episode, and that didn't happen.
Yeah. Or I was expecting to maybe even see a little bit of like,
Planning for it.
yeah, or like, Vel or something, like a little bit more versus like, basically they're just like they don't even know what's going on.
Right.
What's the other girl's name? Vel and
Cinta.
Cinta. Yeah, I was expecting maybe them to at least figure out on this one what's going on, and and maybe like show them like there or something. But it's like, they're making it seem like we're far off from
Well,
any sort of escape.
Well, from what I understood, is the way it was going to work is, again, this is another 3-part act, and so this was the first part of this 3-part act, and so
Yeah.
so
Oh
I,
yeah, for sure.
so it's kind of interesting because when I first saw them, like the guards walking in, they got these giant boots on, and it's like, well, what's that for? Oh wait, they took their shoes off, and then so they have these giant, basically snowboard boots. I'm like, I
Tyler's
have a pair
like a
of
foot
those.
person. He's like,
they got the boa tightening things on them. I'm like, I got a pair of those, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure mine are like 10 years old, so that's not new technology. But they're walking around in those, and then they just shock the floor, and it was the weirdest way they're all like moving. And so it was just interesting. It was the very intimidating. How do we walk around with no weapons? But I just thought it was kind of funny, like, because their boots, like, what also was weird is they're like in black and white uniforms, but their boots have orange and stuff on them, and maybe is that because the prisoners have white and orange, so maybe orange is their third color, I guess.
All right, yeah, it could be like whoever was in charge of like the wardrobe, wanted to do a little orange piping like someone else in the show.
Oh yeah, Cyril.
Yeah.
So yeah, this and it kind of contrasts where we're in this prison, and it's going back and forth between the prison, Cyril, and Mon Mothma. And so Deidre comes to get Cyril. I thought that was like the funniest, because then she talks to Cyril, and she's like, well, what's in the report? He's like, I didn't read the report.
Yeah.
She says, well, you signed it. It's like, I was not given a choice. And you could see her think about it, and she's like, wow, the Empire's either one, really incompetent, or they just don't care and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And I think it was more like the first one, because as we see later in the episode, she's willing to use basically torture techniques to get what she wants. So she's willing to do those bad things the Empire does. So
yeah, to be honest, I don't know about you guys, but to be honest, the whole sequence of them first meeting and the interactions between both of them was actually a little surprising to me. I don't know exactly what I expected. I we knew it was gonna happen, right, Kitty? But yeah, so I was kind of a little surprised that both were like pretty like against each other. Like Cyril did say like, like we should work together, you need me type situation. But really, like, I was more expecting that Deidre could look, at the big picture and say, hey, I could use this guy, and this guy does want to work for me. She could trick him and maybe, like take whatever information he has and dump him later. But either way, I was kind of expecting maybe her to be like, oh, cool, now I got like some guy that I could have as like an informant or, place wherever. And if he has any information, sweet. But like, she was really like, you worthless piece of junk.
Yeah, I totally thought like she was going to say, oh, hey, he's very loyal to the Empire. He's got noble causes. He's, we need him. I need him. He's going to be one of my assistants. Let's work together.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Was like very No. If you continue to do this, if you continue to file these false reports about Cassian trying to find him, she says you won't be talking to me next time. As a threat, not as a you might get someone higher up to talk to. You're gonna get someone higher up, but you ain't gonna be talking.
Yeah, you're Lauren.
Yeah, and so,
but yeah,
I really thought they were gonna try and work together or something, and it didn't come to that. Which is, to me, I'm like, okay, so this isn't going the way I think it's gonna go. So, what is his story going to be then? Is he going to try to go rogue and try to find Cassian on his own? And
probably.
I love this whole episode. They're trying to find Luthen is who they're really trying to find. And what I think is the funniest is they're like, we need to find Cassian and he'll lead us to Luthen. But it's the irony of how inept the Empire is at their own processes. They literally have Cassian in their own prison.
Yeah.
They already have him. Like, all you'd have to do is get a transport. And they're like, we need to go look for him. So they're going to interrogate people on Ferrix and who have no idea where he's at.
Right.
But because your incompetent system is like, and it's mostly because they're punishing people so fast. Like, if you noticed where he was sent to prison, or when the sand trooper interrogates him, to when he's sentenced, to when he's sent to prison, he's wearing the same outfit the entire time, which means it happened within the same day. To me,
more than likely,
or at least
quickly.
Yeah. And he wasn't even provided his prison outfit until he gets there.
Yeah.
And so, but
this whole episode, like, I kept on like thinking that something was going to happen. It wasn't. And I just kept thinking in my head that, like, Luke is telling me this is not going to go the way you think. Like, every single time it's like, there's like, I'm like, okay, this is probably going to happen. Nope. Oh, like, this is going to happen. Nope. Like, there is a lot of like things that I kind of just in my head kind of imagined would happen based on the situation. And like, now I'm just like, I have no idea what's going to happen next episode, which is an awesome feeling.
Yeah. Right. Next episode is you're like, I have no idea where this is going to go.
Yeah, because one thing I noticed too is, you guys notice Melshi? So Melshi is there in the prison. It's Melshi. It's like,
no, just kidding. Mochi, little Mochi.
That Rancor.
Yeah, Moochie. I thought it was Moochie.
Oh, Moochie. Okay.
Okay, but no, Melshi is one of the people who is with Cassian when they go to Scarif. He's part of the crew. And he's one of the prisoners at his table. And he's the one that tells him, listen, you're here until they don't want you. Don't even look at your number. You're here until they don't want you no more. Don't even worry about it. Because, and I think, so we saw Cassian learn what his consequences on Ferrix did for his friends and family. And now we're here in the prison and they're asking him, well, what's going on just because of the Aldani attack? Instantly, the Empire doubled every single person's sentence. They're like, with the resentencings, everyone got a doubled sentence. Everyone's time in here was doubled.
Well, it's not just a prison either. It's a work camp.
Yeah.
They're being forced to work and punished for bad work.
And then do you guys, I haven't even looked anything up, but nothing jumped out at me in like Star Wars memory, but do you know what they're making?
I'm not sure, I've seen people speculate that it could be Death Star parts, which would just be would be super ironic for Cassian to have been building stuff. I've seen people say that it could be some parts for Imperial droids or Imperial
I
probe
was thinking
droids.
like walkers, maybe, because they look big, heavy joints
Yeah.
pieces to me. Like,
Oh,
they
you know
don't
what's
look.
actually interesting now that we're just kind of speculating in a really irony, like a lot of irony in this situation, but if it is stuff
Ironic.
for, yeah, ironic, there you go. If that would be really ironic is if it was parts for like the little I don't even know what you call it, but the thing on Scarif, like right in the middle, that what is it, like the
Tram thing.
yeah, like, you know, like something for, you know, that, because we already know in this show, right? They've already talked about that they're doing their increased shipments over there. So they're right
To Scarif,
now,
yeah.
yeah, to Scarif, they are still building. They're still doing like some sort of structure there, or, you know, enhancing it or whatever they're going to end up using. It's not complete, most likely. So it could technically be parts for that, which would be really crazy too.
Did anyone go when they saw Kino Loy, aka Andy Serkis? When you saw him, were you like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, I was like,
'Cause-
that's kind of interesting.
Because I'm like, okay. And I even saw an article of him saying he was debating whether to do it or not, because he's like, everyone's gonna go, are these Snoke origin stories? Is this something to do with Snoke and everything?
Mhm.
Because I don't know. I don't know if maybe if it is, that would be cool. If it's not, I
Mhm.
don't really like. Okay, and he's a good actor. He's a really good actor.
Yeah.
It just kind of was like, it stuck out a little bit to me. I was like, he introduces himself to Cassian, and I go, because Kaloni's like, what? And I was like, he says his name, and I'm like, no, his name's Snoke. Was like,
Mhm.
what's going on here? It just was a little weird. I don't mind
Yeah.
it. Like I said, he's a good actor,
Mhm.
and the way he definitely brings a presence in this episode where he's like, I only got 249 days left. Don't you mess this up for me. You get to work. Let's go. And he's always on Cassian, even after Cassian's been doing it for 30 days, and the old man is like delaying one of them. And Cassian just stands there for him. He's like, "What? You taking a breather? You just a break? What? Well, it's like, dude, chill out." But
Mhm.
I thought,
Yeah.
so the worst table gets punished, means they get shocked. The best table gets flavor in their food.
In their slop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best team gets taste in their food.
Mhm.
It's just like,
Yeah.
is kind of funny. And I like another thing that this show did. Unfortunately, the guy killed himself, but it also kind of like, it makes you understand the consequences. Like it puts that fear from the audience perspective. It puts that fear of, yeah, don't you dare step on that aisle. You stay in your bunk, which I also thought was interesting, because when that happens, they command everyone not just to their pods, but to their sleeping area,
Yeah.
which means that they can still shock them inside their booze. And that was a get to your sleeping pad. And it was kind of funny. I was almost kind of had a little chuckle because I heard in the background, oh, they're going to leave that here all night. He's going to smell. I was like, wow, real way to treat that, buddy. Like, come on, show some humility.
Too soon.
Yeah. It was just funny.
Yeah.
And then but yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at earlier, is Andor is seeing the consequences. He saw it at Ferrix. Now he's seeing it to his prisoners who are becoming his friends. This is like Andor learning the consequences to his actions.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we kind of compare that to what's going on with Mon Mothma, and she's at another party. She's she's trying to cater votes for her thing. But I also, like, in their drink, when Perrin gets his drink and he's like, do you want one? And it's basically a worm that dies in whatever alcohol they have, I'm assuming. But I'm sure it gets some kind of flavor. But Mon Mothma basically symbolizing the fact that she doesn't want it. She's not going to let an innocent creature die just so that she can have a better tasting drink. And it kind of it embodies who Mon Mothma is as a character.
I think it also is showing her transformation into what she's going to be, because like right after that he says like, oh, you used to, and she said no, like you used to like it or something, and then she said I was better at hiding it. And so I think like once again it's also showing like she's right on the edge, like she's about to be done with this whole facade, and she's ready to just 100% be who she is without any fear of what it might look like or whatever, like
And
whether it's her family or the Senate or anything. Yeah.
And that goes back to Luthen and Clea's conversation about him slipping. And he's just like, I'm not slipping. I'm just not, because we're not hiding as much. He's not used to not hiding so much. And that's kind of, I think, like your point is what's happening with Mon Mothma as well. But she has this one conversation, and I think it's really key, because they talk about the decree that basically got Cassian sent to prison, and they're like, what is public order? And then someone says, if you're doing nothing wrong, what do you have to fear? And Mon Mothma's reply was so perfect. She says, I fear your definition of wrong.
Yeah.
Like what is the Emperor's definition of wrong? And that's up to interpretation.
Right.
And if obviously that public order is becoming more strict, we saw in the last episode that the sentence for Cassian's crimes would have been 6 months. But because of the new order, it's 6 years.
And like even 6 months for just randomly like walking around and seeming strange,
it's ridiculous.
It's like, wow.
For walking around and looking around your surroundings.
Yeah.
Because stormtroopers are tracing bad people.
Oh man.
And that's what you're going to get in trouble for, is looking around. He meant watch. I love that one.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of funny how everyone, Vel and Cinta are watching Bix and Brasso, and so is the Empire, and they're like looking for
episode.
I know, and B's like, she has pain in her knee, and but I liked what Bix says. Bix says she thinks she's a rebel.
Yeah, she's making sure that the tunnels under the hotel are clear, or something like that, so that the rebels can sneak in and take the stormtroopers by surprise.
Yeah, seeing
this
it's so
and
hard
how her character's developing, I fear that the Empire is going to do something to her, and that's what's going to be the final straw for Andor.
Yeah,
he's going to lose his mother to them for no reason at all.
Yeah, and so
just
what
like
if
his dad?
Yeah, so what if that's why Vel and Cinta are there? They're gonna witness this, whatever happens to Marva, and then whenever they end up finding Andor's gonna say something about her, and they're like, yeah, she did.
Well, Vel moves on. It's only Cinta that stays here to watch. So
yeah,
we don't know where Vel's gonna go. I think Vel's gonna. I still feel she's gonna be somewhat responsible for Andor's escape, but I don't know. It could be Melchi. Melchi could be, partially responsible for the escape. They could do it from the inside without any external help.
You can tell in this episode if you just those few. He has a few lines, Melshi, and just a few brief moments. And once you realize who he is and what is, you can see that he's already like, no, the Empire is very, very bad. They don't care about you. You're in here, and as long as they need you or want to use you.
Yeah.
And you're probably not getting out of here alive. When they're done with you, when you're too old to be useful, you're just gone. They're gonna
just throw you in the water. Into those big pools of water spinning at each corner of the prison.
Which very much reminded me of the super prison from the MCU.
Yeah.
Like at the end of Civil War. It very much reminded me of like that prison. Out in the ocean where they can't escape. So then Luthen goes to see an old friend.
Oh yeah, that was great. You saw 2 tubes and then the X-wing.
Yeah. I love seeing that X-wing. That X-wing just like, oh yes, this is what we're going towards. I was so for it. And their conversation is excellent.
Yeah, top notch.
Oh no, you're just trying to make me think you did it. Talking to him about the Aldani incident.
Yeah,
not taking credit for it.
Yeah, it's
trying to basically accuse each other of it.
Which is very interesting from the fact that we know who did it. So it's kind of interesting to see their conversation there. And what you can see, what I really liked here is that what Luthen's really trying to do is get all these cells to work together. They're like, we have to forget our differences. We have to work together. And Saw asks Luthen what kind of man he is, and he goes, I'm a coward. I believe that one day, if we don't stand up together, that the Empire will be too powerful to do anything to. Something along those lines. I don't know the exact quote. And so, because Luthen wants Saw to work with Anton Krieger, and he's like, he's a separatist.
Yeah.
He won't work with him because he's a separatist. It's like, dude, it's been like 15 years. It's the Empire now. You are a separatist now too.
Don't forget, Tyler, the separatist killed his sister.
Yeah.
That's what holds.
And that's what Luthen is trying to say is that, hey, we need to work together. We need to forget our differences and pull together. Otherwise, we'll never be able to defeat the Empire.
Yeah.
And so that was a great, because, and it kind of sees where Saw is at this point. And I liked I did like his line where he's like, do you think if I just stole 100 million credits, I'd be here out in the cold? In a cave out in the cold?
That's exactly what you would do.
Yeah.
Well, and then they're trying to accuse each other of who did it. And he Saw's like, let's agree. It was a masterpiece. This is like, okay, it was you then.
Yeah, I know. You
would only say that about your own work.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I was super hype as soon as, the shot was panning in there and stuff like that. I was like, yes. And like, like watching it late at night, And so what I did is I watched Tales of the Jedi first. So by the time that I watch Andor, like I won't lie, I was like pretty tired. And so like, and up until like, there's a couple of points I was like, okay, I'm awake now. And that was like one of them, like towards that part, like as soon as we got in there, I was like, okay, I'm awake. Like I got to pay attention to everything they say.
Well, as soon as you saw 2 tubes, you knew we were getting Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
That's like his right hand.
Is that what you call him? 2
That's
tubes?
his name.
No, it feels like that's
get out the book.
I feel like that's just what you're calling him, though. It just
no, that's his name. That's his nickname.
Yeah, what is this like? This is like the Italian mafia.
Hey, 2 tubes. Oh, that's so great. But I feel like what we're gonna see here is this arc is going to be about Luthen getting these guys to start to work together and Cassian escaping from prison. And maybe the last 2 episodes will be them doing whatever job Luthen wants the two parties to work together at. And
Yeah.
that would be because I feel like we're definitely getting more Saw. Maybe not necessarily in this season, but it just feels like there's got to be more Saw Gerrera coming in this show before it's over.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like just because of, what it is like, and then obviously we know the finale, but I feel like there's going to be moments where it's going to be like Saw's not going to quote unquote team up, but he will aid in certain situations, right? Like he'll be there to aid something, right? And because we know what he's all about, and so I feel like that's probably good. There you go, 2 tubes.
Yeah, I think I'm making fun of him. That's his actual name.
That's
Told you I
great.
know my book.
Yeah, because I think that's what Luthen wants. Is he wants him to fly cover basically for whatever they're trying to do. He was trying to get Saw's group to fly cover for Arton Kriega.
Yeah, because you know that he's got X-wings. He's got air support.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, this episode was one of the longer ones too. I mean, with credits, it's 56 minutes, so it was a longer one, and I'll be honest, it really wasn't necessarily wasn't my favorite, but it still goes by quickly.
Announcement and the Eye were both over 50 minutes.
That's true. We've been having like some like around hour, including the credits, which is amazing. I'd love them to keep that up. And I think part of it is now they're trying to touch on all of the different story beats that are going on, and you can't really do that unless you're up there, around an hour. Like you can't, say like, oh, here's what's going on with like the ISB. Here's what's going on, still on Ferrix. Here's what's going on with like Luthen. And now, here's what's going on with Andor. Like, it's like you need the time
Andor,
if you can do that.
Ferrix, ISB, Mon Mothma, now Saw, Luthen.
There's so many different side
a lot
stories.
of story points they're touching on.
Yeah,
I feel like they got a lot of prison time too. Like I feel like a lot of the episode was spent in the prison.
I feel like you're starting to add more to it too. Yeah, you're getting people in the prison, so you're gonna start to add more characters too. Obviously, Melshi wasn't a mistake. They put him in the show on purpose. They knew people would catch that.
He's IMDb credit is that he's playing Melshi. It's not just the same actor. He's playing the same character. And obviously he must be somewhat close to Andor because Andor only asked a very few guys, hey, I trust all of you to go to Scarif with me and do this mission. And Melshi was one of those guys. So obviously there's an amount of trust there that is obviously built over time. He didn't just like make an announcement to the whole, everybody on Yavin 4. Hey, we're breaking the rules. We're going to Scarif. Whoever wants to come, you can come. No, he quietly told this group of people, and they're the ones who said yes.
Yeah,
which
and
I
then
could sorry, I was just gonna say I could totally see him. I can almost guarantee they're gonna break out together. So they'll be part of that, and then I wouldn't be surprised to see him tagging along with Cassian through the rest of the show.
Yeah, why not?
That would actually be cool. I would be all for that.
Yeah, I was just gonna add along with what you're just saying, what we were talking about earlier of continuing to add more characters. I mean, Forrest Whitaker, like adding his character in there. I mean, I'm sure they're gonna just like eat up as much as they can, since he said yes. They're gonna try to use him, for sure in this show. And then the other thing is, we now have with Mon Mothma like her old schoolmate or whatever, which
Mhm.
is
The
it like that
banker.
adds that adds like a whole nother layer to her story, which now he kind of has a little bit of a story of we don't even know 100%, much about him. So like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like they might end up having to dive a little bit more for us to understand what he's going through to help her. And I'm just like, man, it's just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and well, that's I think what happens when the story, when people claim it moves slowly, and it is moving slowly, but it's also like taking its time to unfold, and
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's kind of it's almost nice that way because when you kind of take time with those different characters, if you want this big end scene and this big climax with all the characters, then if you like take a couple side missions or side stories and you're like, well, I don't really know who they are. I don't know what their part was in this. Where'd they come from? Whereas like, no, we know everyone's motives and we're getting everyone where they're going, what they're thinking. We've seen their character building. And so it's like but basically what I'm getting at is like the Avengers movies are great, but if you only saw an Avengers movie with
Mm-hmm.
none of their individual movies where you actually learned about them as characters, then
Oh yeah,
you
you
wouldn't
wouldn't care
care.
as much.
And that's kind of what the show is doing is you're getting those little moments with all these other characters. You're getting that Bix and Brasso are family friends. Neither of them, Marva's not either their mother, but they're willing to take care of her. They're a family there. The
hmm
Pack is arrested and they're pounding their warning sticks again and everything, saying that they're after one of us.
Yeah.
And so you're getting that character building, and that's why I think that this show is building up to something big.
I like Brasso. I hope he plays a big role in the rebellion in season 2. I think this is really season 1 is really like the ground layer of introducing these characters to the rebellion, and I'm hoping season 2 we get like a lot of like all these missions for the rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like I feel like it's kind of what we wanted for Andor in the first place, but I feel like Tyler's right in the fact that we have to learn how these characters get connected to the rebellion.
Wait, what is
Right?
it?
And to each
Wait,
other.
what did wait. What
Hey, did you just say I was right?
Well, I mean,
Can we
Clip
get a
that.
replay on that?
Like put it in the intro.
we're talking about Andor in Rogue One era Star Wars, not the sequel Star Wars. We can agree on this era of Star Wars.
So I totally agree. Like if we end up just like it being like this, I mean, obviously there's been some amazing action. There's some really suspenseful moments and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And not to take away from anything from the first, but like you're saying, yeah, I would love that if we just continue on, very similar to this the whole season. But then the next season, we get like all these missions with all of these characters that now we have like grown to understand and like love, for their individual selves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And their connections with each other.
Yeah.
And their family bond almost. Yeah, I really like the way this show is going and it's unfolding, and each episode has even if not a lot happens, you're always like on the edge of your seat. You get deep lines like Mon Mothma's. Well, my fear is what your definition of wrong is, and I was like, that's a powerful line.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she keeps on coming out with bangers. And the other thing too that I was thinking just about this whole situation moving forward is they've spent a decent chunk of time on the family dynamics, not only just with the husband, but with her daughter as well. And is some of the reason why the daughter, I mean, part of it is because she appears to be like teenager year. So, like that could be, part thrown into the mix, but also is it because she doesn't fully understand her mom? She doesn't understand what she's doing. And maybe when she does, she's going to be like, dang, like my mom's PA, like,
what kind of teenager really knows what's going on in the world?
Yeah.
Especially
facts.
when it's a galaxy, right? It's more than just a world problem. It's thousands, millions, billions of worlds problems. So
yeah,
that's
there's a lot more news going on in a Star Wars galaxy when you're not talking like billions of planets. not just
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so I think there's definitely potential there for her character to be developed outside of the screen too. You know, books, comics, uh,
Mhm.
games, even, you know, taking place during the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Well, is there guys anything else you want to add? Do you want to, or you want to start wrapping it up?
I think that feels like a good wrap up spot.
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
too.
that was good.
All right, so if you guys are still in the chat, please give us a like there. Hit that like button. Share the podcast with your friends. I'll be posting the podcast later today or tomorrow, sometime tomorrow.
Yeah.
Watch our Twitter for an update on that. I don't have a whole lot going on. I did post a new video on my own YouTube channel a few days ago. If you want to check that out. What do you got going on there? I'll go Quinton next because Josiah will take all the time.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't really got much going on. I haven't been streaming much lately, but my Twitch and my horrible YouTube is down there if you feel like checking it out. I think I have like 2 videos. So
Nice.
yeah, that's about it. Josiah.
Yeah. So first, as always, like to thank the chat. We had Tip 70 Design come through earlier. Thank you so much. Always good to have some friends in the chat. Kalani, as always. We had Adam from the Rock Show. I appreciate you stopping through. We had Send It O'Reilly. We had Claire. We had Real Shady Unicorn. Big shout out to you. Appreciate you stopping by. And lastly, Kalani said, great episode, boys. Covered so much. And now I want to watch it all again. And yes, 100%. Anytime I start thinking about like the episodes, you know, any of these episodes, you know, whether it's Tales of the Jedi, Andor, as soon as I start thinking about it, talking about it, I'm like, I need to watch it again. So good. And I'm sure I'm going to. But anyway, so what I got going on, I posted a video in our Discord. I was actually on The Rock Show, the Players podcast. So yeah, that was awesome. Super cool cast. Everybody's super nice, awesome. Talking about kind of all things gaming. So yeah, that was a blast. Check it out if you want to. But yeah, definitely go support them. Sub to them. They're hitting some huge milestones on their podcast. So yeah, that's definitely cool. Also, Real Shady Unicorn, I'd give him an extra shout out. He also does gaming. He does streams. He does some awesome giveaways for his community. So you can definitely go check him out too. Real Shady Unicorn on Twitter. And he also got YouTube and Twitch as well. But you'll find him there. What I'm also doing is obviously, as always, I'm doing stuff with Hezekiah. And so we also finally made a video after I got back from work for being gone like over a month. And we posted our good friend Joe, who's also been on the show. He's supported us here. He gave Hezekiah like a whole setup for streaming. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And now he is actually developing his own game. So Angry Poultry Games. He's creating his own game, and you can go follow him if you want to follow the journey of how a game is, you know, developed and created. So yeah, super cool. And most recently, we have completely finished and filmed Hezekiah's next video, which is even like, you know, bigger than we could have imagined. Lily and I are just like, you know, we can't believe how generous people are. But I think we'll probably post that maybe tomorrow or something like that. And you definitely got to check it out. So Hezekiah's Toys and Games. Check out the most recent video with Joe about he does a Lego build, and then a big thank you for Joe for giving him all the streaming stuff. And then the next one's going to be like pretty epic. Tyler and Quinton know what it's about, but yeah, it's gonna be pretty epic. Hezekiah got once again some hugely generous people in the community reached out and are hooking him up. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on that. And yeah, I'm super excited for where Andor is going to come, and I really hope that we get a Tales of the Jedi Part 2 because so good.
I want a Tales of the Sith.
Oh, dang.
Look at
Yes.
Darth Maul,
Oh man. No,
Yeah.
I want
young
Bane.
Darth Maul.
I want Bane.
Okay, of course you do, Mr. Legends.
Come on.
Oh no, Bane would be so
Oh,
great.
It would be so good, like his like that like little story, and even if it's like kind of flashbacks, for like for Palpatine or for Plagueis or something like that, kind of just like flashbacks of that. Oh man, that'd be awesome.
That would be great. All right, guys. Well, thanks everyone again for stopping by. Thank you all for your support. If you guys do want to support us, you can join our Discord. The link is in the description there, and you can also support us on Patreon. I just want to say thank you to everyone. And
Big shout out to Bruce.
And yeah. And I know Bruce will enjoy my Easter egg there back in Tales of the Jedi. So, All right, everyone. Well, I'll let one of you guys say it.
May the Force be with you.
Always.